a whole ass blanket. So let me tell you about it for a minute. Hey friends, it is Tuesday, and if I am actually posting this on time, there will be a shop update tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So if you don't already have an alarm set for that, do it now. ForestLaneFiberCo.com. Get ready. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the video that I posted last week has all the details on all the bags, and if you're curious about any other further details, those will all be in the listings once the shop update goes live. But today I want to talk about something I made on my rigid Heddle Loom. I made a whole ass blanket. So let me tell you about it for a minute. I have, you can probably see it over there. Is it in frame? Yes. Right here is my Ashford 24-inch rigid Heddle Loom. You may be thinking to yourself, 24 inches does not a blanket make, but I was able to do a double weave, I guess, whatever, like a double layered weave, so that I was able to do the 24 inches twice. So I want to make so many more blankets. And right off the bat, I will say that this, if you go back in my videos and you see my my herringbone washcloth video, I used a tutorial by Kelly Casanova. Same thing here. This was this was an ebook by Kelly Casanova, so I can't really share exactly like the very nitty-gritty specifics of how to like get the loom set up for everything, but that's how I did it. I used 2 heddles and 2 pickup sticks. It was really simple, actually. So I'll get into how I made this. So here's the width of it, how it spans, and then the length of it. Oh, one my nose. So this is a pretty good like lap blanket size. Let's see if I can stand up. Let's just look like that. So I basically went stash diving to find the yarn to do this. And before I tell you what I used, I want to give a caveat to say that you should plan to use yarn that is, if not exactly the same, like the same properties, the same wool and everything, to each other. If not exactly the same, then as similar as you can get it, because the stuff that I chose had like a really different bowing factor. There's probably a word for that, like bounce or whatever. So I'll show you what I used. Okay, I hung it up behind me. It might not stay if it falls down. That's fine. Anyway, so I used 6 colors to do this. So I'll show you what I used. So 3 of them are from my fiber bestie, Christina of Bone and Birch Needleworks. She is a natural dyer, so she uses plants to achieve her colors. So it's just botanical dyes. And this yarn is 100% Rambouillet from Michigan and spun there as well at Zeilinger Fiber Mill. And that's where Christina lives in Michigan. And this is a DK weight. And if you know about my shop, Forest Lane Fiber Co., I carry this very same Rambouillet, but in a sport weight, so it's a tiny bit thinner, but this is the DK weight. So I had a sweater quantity of this, I think it was dyed with avocados, and then this was a set. She did a Practical Magic set that had 2 skeins of yarn and then some like Practical Magic related goodies. So these are the exact same yarn, just different colors. So those are 3 of the 6 that I used. And then this is some 100% Shetland. I believe it was, I think it said worsted weight. And you can see it's applied the 2 different colors together. And then I have this like electric blue. I really actually I love that vibrant pop of color with the more like earthy toned down colors. I don't, like if this was paired with like a neon green and a neon pink, that's not my thing, but like there's something about a really, really bright, crazy color paired with really muted colors that just works for me. Anyway, this was, I did, what's it called? Fiber Share a million years ago. And this was some alpaca blend. I don't remember what it was, but it was something. And then this is a yarn that I considered carrying, and I dyed this in my olive colorway. It was a DK. It was either 100% merino or it was like a merino rambouillet blend or something. But this was a DK weight, so everything was either DK or worsted. So I will show you really quick the difference between the way some of these behave and why I have the caveat that I do. So these behave really differently under tension. This, what was it, like a DK merino or merino rambouillet, very bouncy. Like if you watch me stretch it, it is boing, boing, boing. This Shetland doesn't really move at all. So under tension, this was stretching really tight, this Shetland, because it didn't have any like crimp or bounce to it. And this, like, I could have kept pulling and pulling and pulling it to get more tension because of how much spring it has to it. So just if you're going to combine yarns in anything that you're weaving, just keep in mind that if they behave really differently in the warp, not as much in the weft, that you may have a little bit of tensioning issues. I made sure to choose yarns from my stash that I knew would be soft enough because this is going to be a gift for a 1-year-old. I mean, anybody can use it, but I made it for her first birthday. Hi, Robin. If you're seeing this, Robin has already received this, which is why I'm posting about it, because I didn't want to ruin the surprise. I'm also making her a little sweater that I have to finish in like 2 days. I'm assuming that is also done by the time you see this. If it's not, oops. I think I'll say this about the dimensions. I looked up what a throw blanket was supposed to be, and I think it said 50 by 60 inches. I'm not sure what that is in centimeters. So I knew that doubling my 24-inch loom warp would get me a maximum of 48 inches, which, if you know, the warp kind of draws in a little bit. So whatever that was gonna be was what it was gonna be. There's nothing I could really do to control that, but I did want to make the length of it about 60 inches. So I kind of worked backwards from that. So I assumed that between the warp being under tension and it being off tension, it would lose about 10% of its length just from springing back. And then, so that would require me to have 66 inches because 10% more of 60 is 66, and then I guessed that I would have about a foot of waist on either end, on the front and the back of the loom. So that brings me from 66 inches up to whatever 66 plus 24 is, 86, so 90 inches. And then I think I threw in another foot probably. I probably maybe wrote it down somewhere, but I think I did like 96 inches or something like that of warp, because I knew I didn't want it to be any longer than 60 inches, the blanket, because I knew that the full width of it wasn't going to be 50 inches. It was going to be 40 something. So yeah, it ended up being 42 inches wide. So I didn't want it to be too like skinny and long. So I didn't really want it to be much longer than 60 inches. So that's why I aimed for about 66 inches of weaving under tension. Yeah, all I did after I got the length, so I planned out the pattern of the warp, and you know, you have to make sure that it's like symmetrical because it's folded in half here, and I did a couple of repeats of like the same pattern that I did this way when I was weaving the weft, but I also just did some freestyle stuff because I wasn't really sure what it was going to use up with the yarns that I had. I think I ended up using up maybe, I don't even know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I definitely didn't use a full skein of most of the colors. I used a lot of the light pink and a lot of the green, but I have more than enough to make another blanket of yarns like these. So I will make another blanket. Definitely one for me to keep, at least one. So yeah, if you have a rigid Heddle Loom, this is such a fun project to do. It's really easy to double up the warp. It's like a nice bottom. This is a really lovely size for a lap blanket. So if you are both a knitter and a weaver and you've gotten into the habit before of buying sweater quantities of yarn or even single skeins that you didn't necessarily have a plan for at the time, this is a really great stash busting opportunity because you can make something like really gorgeous that just looks well thought out and planned, and it's not chaotic. I just really love this, so I'm definitely going to make more blankets in my life. I wish I had, okay, don't tell anybody I said this, but I wish I had a floor loom. I'm never going to get one because they're huge, and I don't want to let myself have that because then my acquisitions of everything will just like keep compounding. But oh, I used a 7.5 DPI Heddle. I used all of these slots and holes. I have to figure out what that is. Whatever 7.5 times 24 times 2 is. I will do the math and put it on the screen here-ish. The way I chose to finish it was just tying bundles of 4 just on the little fringe. I just cut the length, I don't know, an inch or so. I just think it looks really nice. You can do a hem, or you can do, you can twist it, or you can sew some kind of like fabric on the end to cap it off, but I just really liked this, so I thought this was a nice thing to make.
When you're doing a double layered weave, instead of just pulling one loop through the slot, you pull 2 loops through the slot and then the threading through the holes and stuff of the two heddles is a little bit more complicated. I had two 7.5 DPI heddles and two pickup sticks, so I got started weaving and just kind of freestyled it. The boys and I went to the Catskills in New York, and we had a really nice time. Baby Robin's birthday party was going on, and we got to go swimming and go for hikes and just play and eat and hang out. It was really fun. Just working on some weaving. I have no idea if I'll ever use any of this audio, because I won't show this until March or whatever. I'm making a blanket. I've ventured into double layer weaving on my rigid Heddle Loom. It's 24 inches wide. So knitting double would give you 48 inches worth of warp. Of course, the finished object is never that wide, but I'm making a blanket for my best friend / her family. She has will be a 1-year-old by the time this comes out. So I'll be making her a little sweater, and then this will be for, I guess, the family. But I did ask for pictures of the baby's room so that I could pick colors that at least weren't clashing. Let's see if that stays. What did I just do? So yeah, that's what I'm working on. I didn't show any of the setup of this on a video. It took me a while. There's like free instructions online, but it wasn't really, I don't know. I didn't find any that were super comprehensive, so I did end up buying a pattern / instructions for it on Etsy, which is helpful. It's not actually complicated, it's just a whole lot of steps. Once the blanket was 66 inches on the loom, I was ready to cut it off. Here's some late night footage of me just after I cut it off the loom. I'm watching Workaholics, and I was so excited to unfold the blanket. It's really exciting to be able to weave something so big when it doesn't feel that big while you're working on it. Once I got all of the waste yarn off,
I was able to tie up the fringe. I just grabbed a group of 4 strands and made sure that the threads weren't coming loose at the ends and just tied a knot. As always, George is here to help, but I think it ended up really nice. Nothing very complicated. I really like just the simplicity of tying knots at the end. Before I washed it, I wanted to make sure all of the ends were woven in. Instead of weaving in the ends as I went, I left them loose. I gave it a soak in some lukewarm water, and after it seemed like the wool had absorbed all the water and there weren't really any air pockets left, I put it in a bath with some soak wool wash to make it all nice and lovely again. Once it was dry, I trimmed off all of the ends. I trimmed the fringe to about 1 inch or so, and I ironed out any creases that happened from hanging it to dry. The boys and I gifted baby Robin her sweater and her blanket, and it looks really cute in her room. I will see you this evening at my shop update, and if you're here for the weaving, check out my weaving playlist. Okay, bye.